Oh, yeah. We're here with the MoxStars podcast, and I am here with the ultimate maniacs.
I don't know if this is the vibe. I don't know if this is it.
All right. Okay, I'll start over.
Damn,
that was it. That was Hulkamania.
You did it, but now that I hear it, I don't know if it's it.
It would have sounded great. And welcome to the MoxStars podcast. I am one of your hosts, Evan Kunai, and I'm here with my great friend, Jordan Garcia.
Yo, what up?
And our special guest of the evening, the man with the CDH world on his shoulders, Atlas.
Hello, everybody.
Wow, that was actually great.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I was nervous to start this whole
You did a great job. Well, no Chris today, but we do have Atlas as a special guest. Thank you so much for being here, dude. Before we go any further, we got to talk about our link tree. Go hit up our socials on YouTube, like, follow, subscribe, do all that nonsense, and go to any of your social or your podcasting platforms and give us 5 stars.
You can also join the Discord server. Our community there is growing, and we're always talking on the Brew Buddies channel. Atlas is a frequent contributor.
I think you
to
just
that as well.
went level 8 if I just saw yesterday.
Something about that popped up. Yeah.
Let's go!
I've never seen that before. I do like the leveling in the Discord. I think that's fun.
I have no idea how I put that in.
You're doing a great job.
It happened, though. Today we have 1, pregame action, and 2, we're talking about Atlas, and we're doing a player profile. So we want to talk about the tournament, how that all went for you, and how you prepare for tournaments. And we have just an array of questions for you. Be prepared, because it's going to be chaos.
We're
we have
freaking
no
brilliant.
idea.
Yeah, just kidding. We're just,
right off the top of the dome.
it sounds intimidating. It's cash. It's cash.
I'll give you the best I got.
You're going to do great. But before that, let's talk about our new little update. We talked about Commanders Masters last week, but we were impending 2 spicy little deets that we got confirmation on. Pretty obvious, but it was sick to see the art nonetheless. That is Deflecting SWAT and Fierce Guardianship.
Probably the 2 big chase cards. Well, there's 3 big chase cards out of this entire set: Jeweled Lotus, Fierce Guardianship, and Deflecting SWAT. That, at least as far as like the community or the competitive community goes.
Major reprints definitely needed.
I'm excited for Capture Jing Zhao. I've been waiting for that card to get reprinted for forever.
Yeah, for real though.
Your first suggestion isn't Sun Quan, the Lord of Wu?
Unfortunately, no.
I still have no idea what that means.
I mentioned it before you got here. I was just like, we got to be hyped about that, right? All creatures gain horsemanship.
Oh, that's
creatures you control gain horsemanship.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm hyped about it.
Hasn't ever seen a reprint, and for whatever reason, it was crazy expensive. But it makes all of your creatures unblockable in a limited format, so it's actually going to be dope if you end up drafting it.
Yeah, after now seeing the Deflecting SWAT and Fierce Guardianship alternate arts, I'm going to be picking up both of those for my deck. Holy God, they look great. Yeah,
the course of this last week has been exciting because we're seeing this become one of the greatest master sets that I've personally been involved with or have seen since starting, or at least playing the game or picking the game back up. So we're seeing Commander staples like Arachna Genesis. Zakama's coming back.
The card was so expensive.
Yeah, Tooth and Nail. These are all cards that were
totally
had
Craterhoof.
Yeah, huge followings, and were expensive at one point. Were popular strategies from the beginning of the format, from way back 2013 when they released the first Commander decks. Until now, even some of these cards still see play, even in older decks and older styles, and yeah.
Yeah, Alice, is there anything you're excited about? I know Capture of Jin Zhao.
Capture, obviously.
Yeah.
Personal Tutors, I think, a fantastic reprint, too. I play a lot of mono blue decks and low color decks with blue in them. So Personal Tutors really sweet, because that card was too expensive for how niche it was.
Yeah, that's very fair.
And we haven't seen that they're going to do the whole cycle. I'm not sure if they are, or the Sylvan Tutor. I wish they would, but
Sylvan Tutor I could see getting a reprint just because another P3K card that has limited reprints. Because I think it has 1, doesn't it? Like Spellbook or something.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
It's got 1 reprint. And we're getting another doubling season reprint.
Oh, snap.
Yay!
I completely missed that. Yeah, there's some just big, juicy, casual commander bombs here. I think they actually did a really good job analyzing, what people are playing and wanting and needing reprints of.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, as competitive players, there's no reason for us to ever spend $100 on a doubling season. It's absolutely...
Yeah, we're not worried about it.
Yeah, it's insane that it was even close to that. But we also got Zatalpa. Zatalpa's back.
Shout out to Zatalpa reprint. Always needed.
That's gonna clap cheeks in limited, I swear to God.
I do appreciate that, they're hitting all the niches in Commander, though, right? Like, we're seeing competitive reprints that we definitely need. We're putting in all of our decks. And then we're also seeing, like, the Arachnogenesis. Like, tons of, like, Timmy Green decks need those cards.
Yeah, EDH is primarily a casual format. We play on the competitive end of the spectrum, but it's good to see that it's getting support to both sides.
Totally, yeah. It's very rare. I feel like you can make both camps happy at the same time with one product, and I think they might actually do it.
Outside of the capture, is there anything that you're going to like buy or collect or,
I don't even think I'm going to get any of this. I have everything that I need, or I can proxy what I don't. So I don't think there's anything for me. But if for people who are looking to pick up cards or premium versions of like their Fierce Guardianships and whatnot, that's actually okay. That's not true. I'll probably pick up a foil Fierce.
I was going to say,
okay.
I've seen your deck. I know you're not currently sitting on a foil Fierce.
That's true. No one is.
No, I've seen your deck played multiple times, and it is just decked out like absolutely just bling to the nines. I know that you're gonna like.
I think we build very similar ways as far as like decks and stuff.
Yeah, we seek out the most valuable versions.
Like shiny things.
Yes. There's nothing that hits that. I don't know. It's like a rush of adrenaline or dopamine, like when you pick up a foil card for
absolutely
whatever reason.
Or 7 in a row. And then it's your
like
whole hand.
I see your Cydia Brass, and every time I'm like, ooh, I wish I had that.
I got really fortunate with that one. I was able to get it from somebody who was getting rid of a lot of their cards. So.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, those are the best treasure troves to find.
Well, I know I was just praising this set and that nobody was going to be mad at it. So our next topic is why everybody's mad at this set right now.
Everybody hates this set.
And that is because the pre-con decks had a spicy little update. A perfect time to update the product. Wizards of the Coast has never done that between sets before. Evan, what do we got?
So yesterday, this is actually very, very recent. It was yesterday that Wizards of the Coast did a live stream talking about this product because the community has, after they started spoiling the new cards that are coming on it, the deck lists that are dropping, they said this is not a premium product, though the price for the deck states that otherwise that it is. It is $90 for a pre-con in the Commander Masters set. And the reprints are lacking. The cards they don't even add up. Even if you were to like project highly on the 9 new cards in the deck, they don't even project to meet that $90 threshold.
Yeah, all those slivers.
Yeah. It's mostly due to mana bases. Like you'd think that since they're reprinting, so we also saw for spoilers the allied bondlands, right? We're not even seeing like the enemy bondlands get printed in these pre-cons.
Yeah, wasn't that the most recent printing? Like we need older reprints at this point.
Yeah, which would have been a great opportunity for them to reprint.
God forbid shocks in a pre-con for once.
Just something to bring the value up. And they failed in all totality. So it's just crazy where it's like the Sliver deck, no Sliver Hive, like. Any of these like crazy or like Sliver Queen would have been nice. I know that it's a pretty expensive card, but just one of those cards.
Something to justify like a 40% climb from how they've used to, like how they were priced.
Yeah, I was excited for the Enchantress deck to drop. Like I am an Enchantress player, so I was expecting, honestly, for $90, I was expecting like a Greater Oromancy. Just like something like that. It's not even a card that sees competitive play, but it is a card that desperately needs a reprint.
100%.
So the last reprint wasn't even meaningful, and it was a Judge foil. And so literally, if you're not willing to spend that money, it's impossible to get your hands on unless you proxy. So it's really this whole pre-con kerfuffle is just ultimately a failure from Wizards of the Coast. And just a slap in the face to the community for all, like, it restricts entry-level players. It says, like, if this is you trying to, like, get your friends to join you, $90 to walk through the gate.
It's hard to sell people on $40 to walk through the gate. So $100 all in is for a bad deck that, you're going to want to upgrade after you take to the, LGS for the first time.
Well, I'm sure that these decks play fine against each other, but unfortunately, when you buy a precon, you're not just buying them to play against each other. You're buying them to jump into the infinite pool of decks that are being hosted at your local or at your LGS. So, like, that is the big thing here is not only are you spending $90 for a new player to get into the game, you're also handing them a pile of 100 cards that they have no idea how they work in conjunction with one another. So, honestly, you got to sort of give them a discount for that. Like, $40 was the ceiling for me.
Yeah, I mean, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say the Warhammer ones were what, $70, something like that, and that was people were already complaining about that, but it kind of made up for it because they had all the surge foils and
A lot of new
a
cards.
lot of new cards.
Yeah, and good reprints too on there too.
Artworks, things like that. So like you can almost make up for it because of the new printing and treatments, but and then also like Warhammer. So if you're a Warhammer fan, you can get into Magic. It's an easy bridge, right? But still, so
Nope.
much.
Yeah.
This one wasn't easy pitch at all.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've like kind of gave up on buying precons. I was really into it, even like as a CDH player. Like we still have like casual games and stuff like that. And for me, that was the easiest way to like keep a finger in that and like always something fun and new to play. That's not like I don't have to put a ton of effort into buy like singles or overpower, which I have a tendency to do. But like at a certain point, I stopped because like the decks just aren't hitting. They're not that good, and like the stuff that they put in them is just kind of junk.
Well, I think the last really great set of commander decks. There are two instances of great series of commander decks. The Baldur's Gate ones were really good. The Party Time deck absolutely hit.
Yeah,
right
100%. That was the last one I bought, actually.
Yeah,
really enjoyed it.
That was a great precon. And then before that, I think the Commander 2020 stuff really hit. And I know that had the Fierce Guardianship and stuff like that, which helped push the value of those decks. But the face commander for each of those decks, like had creative. It was an endless creative outlet. Calamax, stuff like that was just like, I felt like there was, as an experienced player, you could open those decks and take your knowledge and expand on the concepts that were laid before you. There are a lot of these precons now that come out that are so restricting, like this triggers once per turn, or like a lot of the abilities just lead to nowhere, So
yeah, I've had a hard time just piloting them.
Yeah, you create a 1/1 human for doing this one thing that gets you nowhere in the game.
Only once per turn.
Only once per turn.
Yeah, simmer down.
So, yeah, this precon thing really has me just like shaking my head. I'm like, it's a good thing I'm not even planning on buying one, but I do feel for all the people out there who may have been trying to pre-order all four or were expecting greater reprints since the price had determined that it was going to be a premium product. So
yeah, I totally like. That's the thing I have with this is like for us for a while it was like, all right, let's buy these because they're great reprints. We can go buy a bunch of the ones that has Fierce Guardianship in them, right? Or like the ones that had Dockside where that was originally printed. Maybe there's like these little like cash grabs for our collector types, but then that's not really the case anymore. And it's like, well, maybe then this is the only product. The only reason to make this product is because it's an intro to the game. And it's like, well, that's completely off the table at $100 now. So I'm like, who is this for? Who is this product for at this point? And I just don't know.
Chumps.
Yeah. Because anybody that's going to spend $100 on it is probably already like an ingrained player and already has plenty of cards and doesn't see any value in this.
You're
Yeah.
not
I don't.
getting any whales with this product.
Yeah.
No, yeah. No whales are going to be going after. There's no like full surge foil deck. Like there's none of that. Yeah. I don't know. I'm done on it.
All right. Well, with that, Alice, it's time for the grilling. Let's freaking talk.
Let's do it.
First off, congrats on winning the Surfside Invitational. That was an awesome tournament, and it was the one we just...
I'll hit the button.
God, you always tell me to hit the button, and I don't remember which one it is. Hey,
there it is. That's the one.
I did it. Okay. Yes, congratulations. This is the one we just streamed on our Twitch, and then we uploaded the finals. So if you want to go watch Atlas win the whole thing, you can watch that on our YouTube. It was so much fun to watch you play and just absolutely crush the teams.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was great.
I just want to say I had faith in you the entire time.
Oh man, dude, Les makes one of them. The first half of that whole event, I was struggling.
If you need proof, we have it on video. You can find it on our YouTube.
Check the VOD, as they say. Yeah, so first question I have for you is like, I know you're a very social player. You're a very political player. So do you do a lot of like online events? And if not, like how did you approach this one?
No, this was actually my first.
First one ever.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay.
I'd consider like playing in like the MoxStars or the Chaos tournaments or something like that before.
Yeah.
But like you said, I half the reason I play the game like Commander as the format of Magic that I choose is because I enjoy people and I enjoy going to play with people and the whole multiplayer dynamic makes it a lot more interesting to me rather than just like a rock paper scissors of what I have found 60 card to come down to. So
Totally.
Yeah, and that was a big thing, like going into the tournament that I talked about early on was you have such a way with politics and reading body language. I didn't know, like, that being one of your greatest strengths, how you would fare throughout the entirety of the tournament. So that was like watching your games, like as you developed, I could see you growing like through the process and being like, this is how I manipulate people.
Yeah, it was definitely a learning on the fly for sure. Because being the first one, like you said, body language is a big thing for me. Communication is huge in Magic in general. You're like trying to read people in 1v1, but then in Commander, you can actually like send communication to other people, and you can like make deals, and you can indicate certain things, and so there's a whole new dynamic that gets introduced. So learning that like as we go, you saw. So my record for the event was 2-2, and I lost my first 2 matches, but I think a lot of it was because I was getting the feel for how one politics online, because it's definitely substantially different than one does in person.
And the fact that they were cutting straight to the finals after going 0-2, I'm sure you felt the pressure a little bit to be like,
I didn't think I was making it. I went 0-2, and then I won my 2 matches in a row, and I was like, well, I'll stick around and like watch this last match, see how it breaks down, because technically there's still a shot that I could get in there. And then I squeaked in there in 4th seat to the top 4 cut, but I was not expecting to get there, to be honest.
Right, yeah. I had no idea how the point system worked out, and then turns out 3 points for a win, it actually closes up your margins pretty tight, like, because I know that's always like a point of contention. People talk about like 5 points for a win, 1 point for a draw, like people feel that a draw should be worth more points, and that was one way that they decided to balance it, making a win worth 3 and a draw worth 1. So yeah, draws had a huge effect on the outcome of who sat at that final table.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Because if that last game hadn't gone to a draw, then I definitely wouldn't have been sitting there.
Yeah. So
Very interesting. Snuck in and then took the win.
Yeah.
all you gotta do is be in the right
Somehow.
position at the right time. So
Let's go.
yeah,
That's why you don't leave the tournaments early. You check those points. So yeah, how did the tournament go for you? What was the vibe? I know you said first few were a little rough.
In general, the vibe was really great. The people that I met online were super cool. Everyone was pretty easygoing.
That was the vibe I got. Just hearing everybody chit chat.
Yeah, it was pretty low key, even though it was competitive. It was run at regular rules enforcement, of course, but everyone who was playing was like a really competitive player and very competent. So, but everyone was really nice going in. Very understanding. I hadn't used Spell Table before, so being patient with me when I like wasn't adjusting my life total on the thing, because I'm just so used to writing it.
Right. Dang, you really don't play online.
I really don't. I'd be like 6 points down off 40, and they'd be like, "Sorry, what's your life total? Is it 40?" And I'm like, "Oh, sorry, got to click that down. I have it right here written down, but I can show you the sheet." But yeah, it just, you can see me like making my little notes and stuff on my pad off the screen on your video.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like Evan and I, we like got into Spell Table right at the jump, like during like peak COVID and stuff like that, as a way to keep the group alive and stuff. But yeah, I totally feel you as like the social thing. I really do have a hard time playing online nowadays, and like I do want to sign up for all these tournaments, but it's just like such a commitment to like stand in front of my computer the whole time.
Yeah, I don't want to, like, if I'm gonna play Magic, I want to be around people and feel their energy. I don't want to sit in my chair in my room.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, being at home
16 hours.
surrounded by the snacks that you're just like, I need
Shouldn't
water,
be
I need trail mix, I need this. So yeah, I mean, that's part of like we talked about how to prepare for a tournament in a previous episode, and just talking about like staying hydrated, staying the best thing about being in an online tournament is that not being around people, you don't have to worry about the deodorant solution.
Or you're very close to your shower, however you want
Always
to
be
look at
worrying
it.
about the deodorant solution.
You also have all your water and snacks right next to you.
Yeah. So you're never really like concerned with like that's. Do you ever find that like and in-person tournaments that you end up being hungry by like the third tournament? I know they give lunch breaks, but it's like sometimes you don't get enough and you end up feeling drained. Like compared to being prepared at home versus being prepared in a tournament, like were you more comfortable just being in your own space? Like
I think it was really different. So when I go to tournaments, I try to go with at least one friend, because it just makes me feel more comfortable, and so
Totally.
you're relaxed. It's easier to like play well and do well. So I think that. But being in my own space, I think sort of made up for that. So felt pretty comfortable with that. But then like the whole water and food thing is it was pretty easy. Yeah, the matches also went really fast through Swiss, so I didn't really find myself needing to like get up a whole bunch or anything like that. Like maybe grab a glass of water, but no, it's pretty straightforward, because more so than in-person tournaments, because in-person tournaments you have to worry about the lunch break, like you said. You don't get enough time necessarily if you don't finish early.
Yeah, and then you're just kind of struggling the rest of the day.
Yeah, it did seem to me that the tournaments moved super smoothly. Is that was your experience?
Yeah, the organization seemed really good. The players meeting before the first round covered all of the details. The judges were super on it, which was great. Yeah,
Yeah, shout out to Topher. The PDX, EDH, CDH community, they are the ones who organized it. And that, like you said, the community of people that were playing were all very competitive, and they probably seem pretty familiar, seeing as they were all invited based on how they've performed at in-person tournaments in the Pacific Northwest in the past, I'd say 6 months or so, right? People who are, it was the Surfside Invitational.
Yeah,
so
definitely knew a fair number of them.
Yeah.
Matches.
Did you end up playing with John?
I did actually end up playing with John. He was my second invitee. So because we were all allowed everyone who was invited was allowed a second that they brought with them to double it from 12 to 24. And so John was my invitee, and we actually ended up playing our last match together, which was really, really fun.
Nice. And you stole it from him.
You got to beat him.
I did. It was really close. He almost got there, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's been hot on that. He was playing Jim now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's hot on that list.
Yeah, not anymore.
Yeah, he wants to what is he moving towards?
He's now playing Thrasios and Dargo.
Wow, yeah.
Oh,
so different.
yes.
I remember he was talking about that.
Yeah, it's a really cool deck.
Yeah.
It is a very cool deck. I'm into that one. So you obviously got the invite.
Yeah, everyone in the top 4 did, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's
we
very
all
cool.
got tickets. So I know that at least myself and Tyler, who's the Tivit player, we're both planning on going to the Surfside event down in San Diego. So that's going to be really fun.
Yeah, do you know what date that is?
It is, what is it? It's August 5th and 6th.
August 5th and 6th, coming up soon.
Yes.
We'll have to reach out to those tournament organizers.
See if we can stream it.
Yeah, see if we can stream that baby.
Yeah, what is your preparation for that?
I'd be nervous. We've been able to get a hotel room locked away, and I've got my flight booked and everything. So it actually came together way easier than I was expecting it to. It's just one of the things that kind of fell together, which was nice. But prep wise, I'm just reviewing my list like always.
So my question is, do you do much review and editing in your deck? I know you are pretty into your list every week. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm changing cards every week.
Did you let the meta or maybe the tournament you're going to influence your choices?
Sometimes. That was definitely one of the cards that came up for the invitational tournament was Vendilion Click, and that was a card that I had added right before that.
Yeah, when you played it was huge.
Yeah,
too.
it
had a lot of
turned the
impact.
course of the game for sure. And that card was definitely informed sort of by my assessment of the meta, because I think about these things all the time, and one of the things that occurred to me is that everyone's always tutoring for their win cons, right? And whether it's Thassa's Oracle, which is going to be a 2-card win con that you have to tutor for one of the pieces for at least, usually, right? But it can only go off at sorcery speed because the Oracle has to be cast at sorcery speed. Or if it's Ad Nauseam or Breach, which usually goes off by intuition, there's generally at least one instance where a player is tapped out, but you can see that they're getting ready to go for the win on their turn, or that they just executed a Vampiric Tutor, top deck tutor, or something like that, and so you can click them in their draw step because it has flash. And so there's at least, generally speaking, there's at least one point where you'll be able to, from my assessment, that you'd be able to click a person who you think's about to win to snap half, or if it's in the case of Adnaz or something, their 1-card win con to the bottom of their library, and then they have to waste an entire another tutor. And you can tell everyone, hey guys, I just bought them this card. If they tutor again, this is what they're going for. We have to prepare for it. And so it gives the whole table something to focus in on.
Yeah, and I'm sure with a demonic consultation, it's that's on the stack. I'll click, I'll take the card, something out of your hand, and then put it to the bottom, and then you're oh, you're forced to name that card, or you're gonna lose the game.
Yeah, or if it's hard because if they put the Thoracle trigger on the stack and then consult, obviously it's not that great because consult's instant speed. But if you think someone's gonna go for it, you can click them in draw step after they vamp tutor or whatever. They vamp tutor, they draw the card, and then you can click them, see their hand, see what they just tutored for, and you can pitch that card, the most impactful card in their hand, to the bottom, and then they just draw a blank card, which statistically is going to be something that is interactive or doesn't help. And interaction is, generally speaking, good for me to have my opponents have.
Yeah, the benefit of the table. And I think that's the discussion we've been having more often than not, is the dance, right? Mm-hmm. Having 4 players contribute. And just because they picked up interaction doesn't necessarily mean that it's something that is meant for you. It just helped to keep the game alive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So are there any other preparation, or anything for the upcoming tournament that you're just talking about? Is there any deck list updates, or you think you're just going exactly what you played?
So I'm still feeling mid on click. I wasn't sure about it going in, and I'm still not sure about it now. It's overperformed every time I've played it, but it's still one of those cards where it's every time I've played it, it has won me the game. But at the same time, it's one of those cards where it feels it doesn't quite feel correct, even if it maybe is. So I'm still assessing. Right now I'm testing Praetor's Grasp, which is a card I've been on and off for a long time for the same reasons. As it feels really good and it wins you the game, but then also sometimes it doesn't, or it just like it feels mid to have, because it's a sorcery and I like playing things at instant speed. So right now I'm playing around with Grasp a little bit. There's some other tech in my list with like stunt double and things that makes it like the card Grasp more advantageous to have right now than possibly Click. But I'm still not sure about that one.
Yeah, because we had a conversation about stunt double just being entering the battlefield as any creature, and like with Kenrith and loops and everything like that, being able to reanimate it, coming in as a Hullbreaker Horror potentially. You can definitely like warp the board state around
or
what you're
displace
doing.
your kitten. You can flicker it, and it doesn't. It can copy something new as it enters, because the replacement effect will still go off, because it's a 0/0 clone when it leaves play and comes back in. So
yeah, that's actually kind of awesome. I that's why I'm a big fan of that. I know when we were talking in the car, we were like having that conversation. I really enjoy stunt double.
That card is basically locked from my list now, since I think you suggested it. It's been in there, and I don't see it coming out anytime soon. It's overperformed every time.
Yeah, it's like that. The whole style that you like to play is off your back foot, like at instant speed. So yeah.
Why do I need to cast Silence when my opponent can put a Silence on the stack and everyone else is going to spend their counter magic first?
It's win second or third or
on top.
Yeah, or on top. There you go. Yeah, no, I love that. I can't wait to see what stunt double does for the deck.
Now that's a new motto. Win on top.
Win on top, baby.
Yep.
Right on. What do you think about, can you identify like a West Coast meta that you've seen, especially going into like, obviously the Surfside Showdown? It's probably going to be like quite a conglomerate of, the players we have to offer here.
Yeah, definitely. I haven't played a lot up and down the West Coast. I've really only played in like Oregon, Washington, and Idaho. But from those metas, from what I've seen, tends to be pretty like stacksy, control heavy. People are playing, even if they're not playing stacks, they're playing stacks pieces, like light stacks is what we call them, and like those asymmetrical things like blind obedience, that where it's like these just hate on your opponent's strategies so much and so generically that they're just really, really strong. So there's almost no penalty to including them as long as you have the slot. And so your decks, it's okay to make your deck run a little bit slower, because that means you get to play better cards. If you're playing these other things and you just deploy them early, right? So
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, white, just having white in your list almost automatically includes Drannith Magistrate.
Yep.
Right. So
you have to like
Drannith Magistrate, Opposition Agent,
Ranger Captain.
Ranger Captain of Eos is I tutor for that piece a lot as a stacks piece, because as long as a Ranger Captain's in play, sure, I can crack it to protect my turn, but I'd probably say like 70% of the time at least I'm cracking it on other people's turns, just like so they can't win, or just to have it there saying if you try to win with Breach, it's not going to work.
Oh yeah, as the Grixis player, I can tell you, just seeing it on the table ruins all the math in my brain. It just scrambles everything.
Yeah.
And your playstyle has taught me a lot about like waiting for the right moment too. And so like sitting on Kenrith, you'll just cast Kenrith and you'll sit there with like all of your mana open, and then someone's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go for the win right now," and then you're like, "I wouldn't do that."
Draw.
Trust me, you don't want to do that.
Ever had someone cast a consult, let it resolve, and then tell them that they can't empty their library? Because I've done that.
Yeah, I watched you do it. I watched you do it in Idaho.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like this guy who wasn't very experienced, but he knew that Thassa's Oracle and Demonic Consultation would win the game. And so Hullbreaker Horror was on the battlefield, but there wasn't anything to cast, so the guy couldn't loop. And so he goes for the win, and Atlas goes, "I don't think you want to do that." And then he goes, "You might want to name something like Swords to Plowshares, because if you don't, the Hullbreaker Horror will win the game."
As you said, get your opponents to have interaction for you.
We were talking about that in the finals game when you were talking to the Tivit player. Like, you literally just walk them through the best possible play that benefited you the most, and they almost did it. They almost walked right into it, but they wouldn't have got the, like, because it was the dress down sequence where it was like, if you dress down on my end step, it'll survive your turn. You can.
I don't like dress down as a card. I don't want my opponents to have that card. So yeah.
Yep, and it was just like, oh, he wouldn't have got the Tivit trigger either because it's an ETB. Oh, it's like he would have had to wait till his next turn before he could attack and then get his voting.
Yeah, we've coined it the Atlas Riz. It's just walking people to their own demise with just the most silver of tongues.
You do me too much credit.
Well, when you win as many tournaments as you do, or get to the top 4 as often as you do, it's kind of justified at this point. You've earned it.
Thank you.
You got some record. All right, so I got a question for you. Decks and/or techs that you're styling on right now. What are you into, like maybe on your own deck, or what are you seeing at tournaments right now that are super cool for you?
I think just what, like play styles or individual cards?
I would say like new decks you're seeing popping up, or like new tech index, i.e., Vendilion Click popping off.
Like that's not tech. Don't play that card. It's not generically good.
Like there was a minute where Obnixilis was like perceived to be the rising star, and I haven't seen it yet.
I think it has potential. Oh, actually, I played in an CRCQ, Commander RCQ last weekend, and there was a really sweet deck in there. It was Max the Daredevil and Will the Wise from the Stranger Things Secret Lair.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, it was like Staxless Pod.
Was that Sans Blue, right?
It's Sans Blue.
Yeah.
And it like played like Mirkwood Bats and all these sweet things to like just it was really cool. They didn't play a lot of stacks, but it was like a lot of like interaction and just like fast combo type stuff using tokens, like not even clues, but just like tokens and Mirkwood Bat, and then there were their pod lines.
What?
It's cool.
That's awesome.
Really cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sans Blue. Where they had been playing. Did they play Samwise Kitten?
I didn't see it. I just saw they were on like the birthing pod stuff to go get Kiki Chiki and all those things.
Okay.
Kind of like a blood pod type deck.
Yeah, it was like they said it was blood pod but without the stacks. Like
Yeah.
they're just not playing Timna, so they can't play the stacks.
Sure. Yeah. So
That's super cool.
yeah, no card advantage in the command zone.
That's
just
not Will cracks clues.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, there you go. That's
it's not.
it is. It is a little bit of a walk. It is a walk for card advantage, but you will eventually get.
But
there.
you have an infinite mana outlet in the command zone. That's the trade-off.
True.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
That is a good point. I mean, that's a big reason why Timna Thrasios, has been a big was a big deck for a long time, just because infinite mana outlet in the command zone, not such a bad thing.
No, not at all.
Yeah, for a very brief period, I was into the baby blue farm list for a while. So I love to see the other kids doing getting up to things.
Yeah, it was really neat. But outside of that, I think Born Upon the Wind or Born Upon a Wind, that new Lord of the Rings card that gives everything that you can flash.
Oh, you're starting another hour-long conversation.
That card seems sweet though. And I'm excited to see more decks have used that.
You're
card.
fucking I'm just
You're
music
just
to my
making
ears.
Jordan the happiest kid on
This is
the
a whole
planet.
second episode.
Yeah,
but-
this is a whole day at work. That's what it is.
Necropose is playable again.
Yeah, I mean, we were just jamming a list. Like you were helping me with my list for coming up for this tournament. Shout out our Discord and the Brew Buddies. Check it out. Yeah, we that's exactly why I kind of reinvigorated. I've always had Necropons around because I've really liked it. It's been a pet card, and it's good enough to justify not cutting it quite yet. But now with the whole Born Upon a Wind thing, I'm kind of like very reinvigorated. Actually, focus it significantly more. So yeah, what do you think about Born Upon a Wind? Obviously, it's that win on top strategy you would love.
I'm a big fan of that. I also think that Necropotence is a cool card. I've never personally been hot on it because I like drawing cards for turn, and restricting your draws to your life total and your end step is not super advantageous for a control strategy, but Shimmer was really strong back when that was the deck to be playing, and so seeing a card that sort of reinvigorates that style, that and like Liberator is a better version of Shimmermere now, and
Yes.
seeing those styles of cards that make Necropotence like actually a viable card again, in my opinion, because there was a while there that a lot of the lists, it was like a year and a half ago, a lot of lists that were on like the Grixis core were still playing Necropotence and stuff. And back in the days when I did even try to play Turbo, then it was I was cutting that from my decks because I didn't like the card. And I think that it's once you get stopped one time after your life total goes below 5, like people will just keep you alive for a dockside count or whatever because you can't do anything because you can't draw any cards. So.
Right.
Yeah, that is very fair, and I'm definitely guilty of that. But with the new list, the ad nauseous list, I feel like I got something. We're cooking with something. We'll see how it does at the tournament this weekend.
Seems sweet.
Sweet. Well,
I mean, speaking of that, literally a tournament this coming week.
that's actually very true.
We're going to be in Issaquah.
Shout out Laughing Dragons, Run It Back, right?
Yep, Run It Back tournament where Shalai and Halar will be sitting at the final table.
I believe it. I believe it.
All 3 of these decks. Let's freaking go.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. Atlas, are you looking forward to that? Have you, or Well, how have
Same
you
list?
been preparing for that?
Same list as
You
the one.
want to give us a little insight into strategy?
I'm gonna be playing Kenrith like I always.
Oh
do.
snap!
Oh, God.
I'll put my Curse Totem still in my deck.
Yeah, that's a really good card.
I'll keep it there. Yeah, that is my generic stacks piece that I like to throw out.
There's no penalty for a Grixis list to play that card.
Yeah, especially on Tevcrom.
And it hoses a lot of the decks that Grixis lists have problems with.
I mean, we
or
saw how good
dorks that
Drana and
grind.
Lavala was.
Yep.
Stops a Ranger Captain.
Yep.
Oh, that's been a great new addition. I love
Yep.
that card. Okay, so moving on to my next topic and my last topic actually. TEDH, for lack of a better word, right? Competitive Commander, whatever you want to call it. And maybe we can discuss what you like to call it. We're growing. We have more and more tournaments locally, online, consistently all the time. Bigger and bigger prize pools. People competing for like the biggest, spiciest tournament that they can put out and hopefully sell out on. I love to see it. I mean, that's exactly why we're here, right? We're doing tournament coverage. You're a tournament grinder, I would say. How I love to see it, and we need to grow more, right? We need to. Part of the issue, I think, is that it is a casual format that a community is pushing to make more legitimate, right? So
That is the next step in the growth for this format. Yeah.
Right. So I think we need to keep making these banger tournaments with like maybe even get new coverage like we're working on and like you're working on. And how do we move us forward as a collective?
That's a great question that smarter minds than mine will have to answer. But I think in general, I think we're on the right path with hosting these like new tournaments up and down the coast and things like that. Washington and Oregon with the PDX group have a lot of really good support. I think as far as developing the scene more, the next step is to like sort of refine the process, which the PDX group's been doing a great job of with their whole regional circuit, with like their CQs that they've been setting up this year. I think that's a fantastic step forward towards like quote unquote legitimizing the format, right? But I think some of it too has to do with like larger organizations. So, like Eminence took a big step by hitting up the PDX group for their invitationals, and then like recruiting people into this more national event. And so, but I think it comes down to how like we the players are perceiving it too. So I used to play a little bit and follow like Super Smash Bros, and the terminology is just there, right? Where you have your locals, you have your majors, then you have your super majors, and that's kind of what we've started setting up with CEDH. Is you have your locals, which are like the LGS games that you play weekly for like a tournament pool or whatever, store credit or whatever it happens to be, and then you have your majors, which is like anything where there's a buy-in and you're meeting up with like kind of random people and maybe traveling a little bit, and then super majors are the next step, is like having those consistently where you have different circuits that feed into those.
Yeah, I think the Grand Prix back in the day were like a great example of like how Constructed was moving forward and how they were creating like that, nationwide podium, so to speak, where it's like
you get those brackets that funnel into each other.
Exactly. One person stands on top. And like now that I think the Invitational was a great step, I'd say, in being a major, even though it's not necessarily a formally recognized major, to what would be the Surfside Showdown, which would be a super major, where it's like, like theoretically that's what it is, though it's not formally recognized like that.
Yeah, but I mean that we just did it, so right, like
that's the terminology we use in our group. Is like me and my friends will call like even the Issaquah thing is something I would personally consider a major, even though it doesn't funnel into anything. It's a major tournament. Like people are paying a not insubstantial amount of money to go play in this event. They may or may not get prized from.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the growth of the format, you guys had just talked about it on your podcast, Man on the Rocks, if you want to check it out. Great little show. The arbitrary nature of the ban list and whether or not it is arbitrary, because it does form the metas for like what how we play the game, right?
Absolutely.
So, like how, like, if this is to become more formal, like more recognized as a competitive event, even by Wizards of the Coast, if they dare step into the ring and say, like, yes, this can be competitive, this will be a recognized thing.
I hope they don't do that.
well, yeah, because then the ban list becomes something where it's like...
it just becomes a very different format than what we're all playing and enjoying right now. Because I think... Because I talked to like a lot of the modern grinders and legacy grinders and stuff at my LGS, and just the differences in like how a ban list is constructed for a WotC regulated format is so different. So to where like if we were seeing this format regulated by WotC for any sort of competitive scene, all the cards that everyone knows and loves to play because they're so strong and competitive would be banned. Soul Ring would not be legal. Mana Crypt would not be legal. Like all of these things that everyone's like, these make the format fun, make it cool. We would basically be playing 4-player Canlander, which at that point just play Canlander with 2 extra opponents, like or Oathbreaker even. So
yeah, this is sort of funny how the game of our own making has come this far, right? And we're now trying to organize it into massive tournaments.
Right, it's a fine balance, right? Like, because it is a completely community-run effort, and we need to like kind of keep that wholesomeness about it and keep that like personality about it. That's why we love this thing, I think. But, you know, while we're helping it grow and like growing in absolutely in the right direction, maybe that is not the right direction, or obviously is not the right direction.
So support your local TOs, support your
100%.
Support your local tournaments.
Yeah, support your local tournaments and
give them feedback.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, like keep pushing. And for people that like don't necessarily have like what you have at Gabby's, right, where you have like the weekly tournaments and like the larger like quarterlies. You know, start pushing, start talking to your LGSs about getting those run, and like just start it with pods and start running pods and games and show them that there is interest, because I know there's a ton of interest out there.
You guys do a great job at bringing in new players. I think that's like the big thing I noticed at Gabby's is you'll be like, there'll be a Cadena deck there, but then it's like totally flexed out and actually has win conditions based on the effect of Cadena herself.
Yeah, so it's a really good community. It's something that a number of us have worked really hard to build pre-COVID, and then especially after COVID, rebuilding it, because that was really hard. But even with like a community as well developed as that, like giving feedback and stuff is still really important, because so like we have our local events and we have our quarterly events, like you said. But unlike a lot of the other tournaments in the areas, like the thing that sets Gabby's aside and that makes it hard to access for a lot of players is that they don't allow proxies, which, while I think it makes sense for stores to set their own policies for proxies based on local events, if you're going to be trying to bring in a lot of players from other locations for large events like the quarterlies, which could be considered a major because you're trying to access a major portion of the community, that should allow proxies, because they aren't the ones who are going to be buying your product anyway. So it's not like you'd actually be losing sales. In fact, you'd actually be generating additional revenue by bringing in more players. So, and that's feedback that we've been trying to provide, and we're working towards getting access for additional parts of the community via proxies at the more major tournaments too. So like it's always, even if they're really well run and there is a well developed community, it's always just really important to provide feedback as long as it's constructive and respectful.
Right. God, I'm excited to see where this goes.
Totally. I think this is gas, and I think we have tons of momentum moving us forward right now. And I really want to shout out, as you're talking about Eminence, I think they're a huge player in that. And I really want to shout out Command Tower in one. It's how good of a tournament organizing software it is, and how much it's streamlined from pre-Command Tower to post-Command Tower era. But in addition to that, it's given us a new key detail that we have really not had any systemized access to, and that's data points.
Yes.
We've never had that before, and if we did, it's one-off, somebody handwriting this and posting on Reddit, but like having a
lot of it was anecdotal.
Yeah, exactly, and having like a source of like consistency, because they're part of all of the Mox Masters tournaments. They're going to have so many data points that we'll actually be able to pull from. I think that's a huge point in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
All it tells me is that Blue Farm is still the best deck in the meta.
I don't know. It's really interesting, because I was talking to someone on your server actually, and they were like, they're a lot better with data than I am. I'm not too much of a numbers person. But they were talking about like different conversion rates and stuff. And so one of the differences between Blue Farm and a lot of other decks is that it's represented a lot more than other decks. So of course it's going to do better on the whole, right? But also its conversion rate isn't actually that much higher than other decks that are less represented. So it's like you got to take all that data, right? It's the whole 70%, 30% thing is, right? Just because you have 30% of something showing up, 70% of it wasn't.
Yeah, there are a lot of Blue Farm lists out there, and not every single one of them can convert. Yeah, right.
Not to say that Blue Farm isn't the best deck, but
I don't know. It sounded like you were trying to undermine my argument.
No, I do agree with you that it is technically the best deck.
It's so lame. But exactly, that is exactly the point that we've never really had that kind of information for, seeing conversion rates, seeing who's bringing what to what tournament, and that like gives you access to localized metas, right? So if you're saying there's, what was the before major?
Before a major, it'd be like a local.
Well, a local, right? So you do a local tournament, but then like when you go to majors, you'll be able to see like a whole meta breakdown, who brought what, and then like and that scales obviously to a super major.
Yeah, and every time you register an event on Eminence, like that, the title of the event is next to like the deck that it was ran at, so you can actually filter based on different events and like see, like wow, the representation there, whether it be a local, a major, or a super major.
And the ones that require deck list submissions are even better because then not just are you seeing like which commanders are showing up, but you're seeing like what style of decks. Because some commanders like Kenrith have multiple ways. Like you can build it as a turbo list, you can build it as a stacks list, you can build it as a hermit. Like there's so many different ways to build it. So seeing what people are actually running that they're converting with, that's really helpful too.
Yeah, the Cash Cards Unlimited, the previous tournament, when they posted their like top 16, I went through and I read every single deck list, and I went through every single one. I was just like, what are people playing right now that like they're spending, what was it, $200 admission fee? Like what are they actually bringing to the table to compete at the highest level? And so it was cool to see like the different variants of lists and whatnot. So yeah, I agree. If you include a deck list in with it all, it just goes further to establishing those data points.
Which is just even more testimony to how good Command Tower and like the Eminence software is in general. Because that I feel like that because they reached out last year, they were starting to reach out to different places. When they started talking to LGSs about buying their software, and that's when things started to get off the ground. And ever since then, it's just been going, and that's done wonders for the community.
Yeah, we want to buy their software.
I also want to be sponsored by Eminence. Shout out.
Yeah, Eminence.
Yeah, hey-oh. We're the MoxStars.
Sponsored by MoxStars. You heard it here first from Atlas. Tournament winner. Let's go.
All right.
All right, Alice, you got anything else? Any parting words?
I don't. I'm really looking forward to playing some games with you.
Let's play some freaking Magic. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a blast.
Thank you.
Last thing before we get out of here, guys, make sure to hit up that link tree. We got the YouTube. Like, subscribe, follow, and go to any podcasting platform and give us 5 stars. Alice, you got any plugs for me?
If you're in the Seattle area and you haven't registered for CEDH2, the run back, do it.
Yeah, and don't forget to plug the Man on the Rocks podcast.
Yes, go check out Man on the Rocks.
Excellent podcast.
I'll put the description below.
YouTube or podcasting platforms.
Yes.
Go check it out.
All right.
This has been the MoxStars podcast. Thanks for listening, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.